I read a lot about people who have been able to acquire some distant languages in a certain period of time, but learning languages, it's not always a success story. That's why in this video I share with you my first big failure with foreign languages, namely with learning German language that occurred last year. And this video will be divided in the parts such as why I started learning German, how I started learning German, what happened throughout my language learning journey, why I gave up on German, what are the morals that I have been able to develop throughout my language learning journey, why do people usually give up from their language learning process, and what can they do in order to prevent all these obstacles that can occur on this journey. In the September last year, I thought about learning German as one of the languages that are really intriguing and broadly spoken throughout Europe. Therefore, I found this language very interesting because I have already traveled to some countries where German is spoken, such as Germany and Austria. Therefore, I already had some friends that are native in German, and I thought it was really interesting idea and it could be an adventure to try to learn such a language with which I have to say I have never been in touch before. Since I already traveled to these countries that I really like, I was wondering how to immerse myself in this culture and how to figure out some paths that I can use in order to really immerse myself in the language. So how I started learning German? Well, in September last year I was in the situation to apply and attend a course via my job, and it was a free course that I was offered to attend, and I was like, why not? Why wouldn't I try to learn this language that I really found super interesting and very important language throughout Europe? Well, this course that is supposed to be held and start in September last year, it was meant to be online, and there were like 3 more colleagues of mine who applied for the course and who were accepted as myself. We were all total beginners in German language without previous knowledge about the language, so we had to start from the scratch and build up the language throughout the course. So I was super thrilled and super enthusiastic to start learning German because as I said, I found it really amazing and very interesting. At the very beginning of the course, it was a really good atmosphere. We started learning from the scratch. We started learning first letters in German that are pretty similar to some other languages that I have already tried to acquire and acquired. The course was held by the professor who is an employee in one of the biggest teaching schools for foreign languages here in Belgrade in Serbia, and she's a lady that has a lot of experience in teaching, and I hope she's not watching this video because she's one of the reasons and her methods are one of the reasons why I gave up on this language, because this is a sort of thing that is basically connected with skill building theory and way of teaching. So the old way of teaching foreign languages that is so popular throughout the world nowadays, I really don't believe it works. But I'm trying even throughout this YouTube channel to spread a voice about language acquisition and a natural way of learning foreign languages and how it's important, how it can be fun and enjoyable, and how it should be fun and enjoyable to learn foreign languages in a natural way, without any stress, without torturing yourself while learning grammar, all those words in an old-fashioned way. Therefore, having in mind what I already said and what happened throughout the course, I will give you some inputs regarding the concept of the course. So we were working online twice a week. Our classes were in the afternoon on Tuesday and Thursday. And at the very beginning we started learning letters in German and the pronunciation. We were mostly focused on reading some texts from the textbooks. So we have a literature that was written for that course, and this literature is in two languages, so it's like a bilingual German, Serbian. Parts of the text are translated in Serbian, and it was actually written by the professor. So we were mostly going through the lectures, going through lessons that were from page 1 literally until the end of the book, and we were learning these small phrases like "Wie geht es?" "Mir geht es sehr gut," things that I found boring, and building a vocabulary and learning these basic conjugations and these most common words like sein, lieben, machen, haben, and the numbers, of course. Things that you usually do, and I think this is method that is so old-fashioned. What I found especially distracting, especially endangering the learning process, is forcing students to speak even though they are not ready to do so. So we were like producing sentences in a very stressful environment, which is one of the most dangerous things for enjoyment throughout your language learning process. And this is something that kills the enthusiasm in students, and I think it's bad. And the other thing that I found really stressful and distracting is these all sorts of corrections, you know. So when the student said something that is not grammatically correct, our professor was always like, "It's not like that, it's this way." So she put a lot of pressure on students who are at the elementary level, who have just started to learn that language, and in a way she created a lot of antagonism within myself. And what's interesting is that some of the students were not so opposed to this method, but they were like glad that she corrected us. They were glad that she is forcing us to learn these phrases and creating this, at least for me, the stressful environment. And I'm just thinking that it's not good, and having in mind all the experience that I already have in foreign languages, in the process of learning foreign languages, since I have already acquired some of the languages. And as I said, I have the experience how to do it in a better way, so to say, than this one. I was really disappointed. I was really angry, under quotation marks, and I really wanted to just give up the language. So what happened is that I started skipping some classes because I didn't like them. I didn't like the surrounding. I didn't like the concept of learning, and after a couple of classes I was like, okay, I will pick up all these things that they already have done, and I will be able to learn. I would be able to pick up the whole backlog that I had. The another obstacle that I coped with is, of course, my working hours, because I had a lot of obligations, and my free time was really reduced throughout this period from September until the end of the year, and I wasn't able to read and memorize everything we have already done while I was skipping all these classes. So this caused a trouble more, I would say, and at one point I only decided that I don't want to distract myself and torture myself anymore, and that I just want to give up on German classes. I really don't regret it, because I think this was a good decision that I've made, at least for now. And moral of the story is that if you want to learn a foreign language from scratch, I think a huge thing is to find a person, a teacher or a mentor who would be super polite, who would be enthusiastic about your language journey, who would make things easier for you, not make things harder, and who would support you at your journey and make the whole journey more fun and interesting, because all these classes that I attended were very boring, very monotonous, without any interesting inputs, and it was all about learning phrases, learning grammar, forcing us to speak like a robot. I think this is a wrong way of learning foreign language, and I think that a lot of times these professors who are teaching us a language from scratch can cause whether we are supposed to like a target language or not. The result of these courses is that from 4 students, there were 2 students, myself and my colleague, that gave up on the course. And at least in my case, I believe that the reason wasn't because I was lazy, because I didn't like the language, because I didn't like the lady that was teaching me, but the biggest reason was wrong concept of learning, totally wrong approach towards teaching a foreign language, making things much more difficult than it should be. Therefore, a moral of this video for all students, for all language enthusiasts who want to try learn a foreign language that is maybe distant more or less to the languages he or she already speaks, is don't blame yourself if the journey is not the way that you want it. Don't blame yourself, try to do your best, but if you think this journey is not for you, you should give up, you should give up and do some other things. There are a lot of languages that are there, somewhere there, outside, and are waiting for you to emerge in them and to master them. So there are a lot of choices, you never know which language you would love, Therefore, I stopped with my German in December and January of this year. I stopped only for now. I don't regret it, but I think there will be a moment in my life where I'll come back to German and try to improve it, try to be better, and to achieve at least the intermediate level in German, because I think it's worth it. I think this language is amazing, and this culture of Germany and Austria and other countries in which this language is spoken, I'll do my best to continue learning German one day. That would be all for this video. Thank you very much for watching, guys. Every like and comment of this video can really help this channel grow, so if you like it, please consider subscribing to the channel and sharing this with other people that might be interesting to see it. And see you guys.